Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for appearing before us today. Mr. Bonner, you've written that it's time to totally overhaul Canada's immigration system. You've also written, to put it bluntly, many of the immigrants that we attract and keep shouldn't be here. Could you expand on these statements, given that Bill C-3 allows people who have never been in Canada to become Canadian citizens without taking a citizenship test, without having a knowledge of one of the two official languages of the country, or no security checks are required, and what risks you see with this approach?
Thank you. My principal concern is to restore confidence in an immigration system which has served our country very well for rather a long time. Not only to restore confidence, but to restore the former consensus which held good in this country and which is not reflected elsewhere anymore, unfortunately. We should also be wary about taking headlines for things that I've written. That the comment that I was making, some of those things that you refer to, is that it is a question of economic integration, and Canada has been doing a worse and worse job on that score over recent years, and the number of people who take citizenship and then leave the country, I think, speaks for itself. That this is a significant challenge that the country has not been able to address. Now, I'd like to pivot back to what I said originally. The question is about restoring confidence in a system that has been, I think, badly shaken over the past several years. And there are certainly merits, as we have heard, in the concept of restoring citizenship to those from whom it should not have been alienated in the first place. And that is something that merits exactly the kind of examination that's going on here right now. But there are many larger and broader questions pertaining to the integrity of our immigration system and public confidence in it, which this is not going to address. And if we get this wrong, it will only add to the problem.
Well, considering the Liberals already wrecked our once proud immigration system, I agree with a lot of the points you made. We've had 7 immigration ministers over the last 10 years. There appears to be a problem finding a competent minister to run the file. Do you think there would be a capacity to process thousands of new citizenship applications, given the current backlogs and processing times today?
Depending on the number of persons involved, that could be a very serious and certainly a realistic concern. And to judge by past examples, this is a concern that already exists within the system, such as it already is. I don't know if anyone has yet put forward numbers with confidence as to how many people this would affect. I've seen reports in the media of very, some figures go as high as 1 million. Until we know that for certain, I would be very wary.
Do you believe that C3 is missing an opportunity to clearly articulate and test for an understanding of the fundamental democratic values which you advocate for and are expected of all Canadian citizens?
I think that that's something that should be given very serious consideration, and again, it speaks to the general challenge, the general loss of confidence that has taken place in our immigration system, and we should get that right above all.
Thank you, Mr. Bonner. I'd like to.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My following questions are for Dr. Bonner. You published a study in May of this year entitled "Repairing the Fray," where you investigated Canada's immigration policy. On page 18, you wrote that nearly 60% of Canadians of all backgrounds now claim that newcomers do not share Canadian values and that they fail to integrate themselves with Canadian society. Do you feel that this lack of integration could be addressed in Bill C-3, substantial connection test, by adding, firstly, a language proficiency test in either English or French, and secondly, a citizenship test requirement?
The answer is yes and no. I mean, in principle, I think that something needs to be done about the problem that that you cite there, and those aren't numbers that I made up. Those are reputable polling firms which you can find in the footnotes to my study, and I would be very surprised if that number had not, in fact, risen. Those sorts of safeguards need to, and not only cultural but also economic integration, those need to be built into the immigration system in general, not just into one bill. And it is also a philosophy that the country as a whole ought to adopt. And if you look in the context of that statistic that you cite there, the context is a reaction to the context is the idea that there is nothing into which to integrate, or like the theory that there is a kind of cultural void in Canada that therefore that doesn't require any kind of effort to acculturate anyone, or that there are no particular values, no particular principles. You know, that was a refrain that was often heard over the past decade, and I think the Canadians know that that isn't true. So yes, we should do that, but that must be that must be a philosophy adopted into the immigration system, our attitude to citizenship, our attitude to the country as a whole.
Thank you. And on that same page, you wrote that more and more newcomers are leaving, having formed no permanent connections to the country and moving on to other economic opportunities abroad. Further, you cited that 25% of all immigrants will leave within 25 years, and a little over a third of them will do so within the first 5 years. You place special emphasis in noting that among those who leave, 48% are economic immigrants. Do you feel that the lack of connection to Canada could be addressed through Bill C-3 substantial connection test by adding a longer residency requirement?
Yes, I mean, I think in general that should be done for citizenship policy. The economic statistic that the economic immigration statistic that you mentioned there, that goes back, if I remember correctly, to a study, not one that I did, but one that I referenced, called The Leaky Bucket, very memorable title. I interpret that to be actually quite an alarming fact, that economic immigrants are chosen because they wish to invest here, they have offers of jobs already, and that the skills and so forth that they bring, or the level of education and skills training brought to the country, are those that we need, that they are vital to us. If they are leaving, I think that bespeaks a very serious problem that we need to address, that we need to look into. Part of the problem is undoubtedly connected with that feeling of scarcity, of sort of strain on infrastructure and so forth that we have all felt, especially people of my generation, over recent years. And I think certainly more could be done to retain the highly skilled and well-trained people that wish to come here and integrate, and the fact that we don't is a problem. Again, something about that, some sort of solution needs to be found. And yes, it may be wise to build it into Bill C-3.
Thank you, Mr. Bonner. Thank you, Mr. Ma. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Bonner, I was struck and interested in your comments at the beginning about the value of Canadian citizenship and what it means to be a Canadian citizen, and your commentary on the evolution of this sort of post-national philosophy that obviously has not gained the traction that it was at the time. But I'm curious as to what you think of the provisions or the lack of provisions in this bill that, for example, no language check, no test of citizenship, no knowledge, no test of self-sustainability once you arrive in Canada, And as the minister said, you can have citizenship by cottages, by literally just staying in the country for 1,095 non-consecutive days. What do you think that overall philosophy and the approach in this bill means to you in relation to the value of Canadian citizenship?
Thank you. Well, as I said in my opening remarks, I don't think that there's a question as to whether or not there are some people who should have their citizenship restored to them. I don't know if anybody's actually debating that or suggesting that there's some reason not to do that. My concern is, again, citizenship should count for more in general, and that the higher priority of the government and of the Canadian public should be to restore confidence to a citizenship policy and an immigration policy that are very often
15
seen
seconds.
together, rather than sort of minor tinkering here and there. And if Bill C-3 is got wrong and it's open to abuse and this is seen in public, it will only add to the problem.
Thank you, Mr. Davies.